Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, and in this video I will show you how I apply chunky glitter dips so that they lay flat and you get that perfect super smooth finish. In this video I use Sparkle & Co.'s DP120, SB41, DP90, their dip liquids, paper towels, a hand file, a buffer block, and a duster brush. So I'm starting off with DP120 Elle Woods glass slippers, which is this really pretty rose gold glitter color. And I would recommend when you do your base coat, like right here in this video, do thin coats of base bond. Otherwise, you're going to get really thick nails and you don't want that. And when you go to do chunky glitters, I would recommend laying your nail flat into the dip powder and rolling side to side to coat the nail instead of dipping straight in. This way it helps the glitter lay completely flat against your nail, or as flat as possible. And then I take my fingertip and pat down with your finger the glitter as best you can to help it lay flat. And you might get some glitter on your finger. That's okay. If you don't want that, you can put a glove on and do it also. It just helps the glitter lay as flat as possible. And you also want to pinch the sides as you do it. It'll help, especially on your natural nail, from your nail appearing wide. Dip powder tends to make it look a little wider, so just pinch the sides in a little. And then I set that one down and go in with my second. And this one is of SB41 Party Gras. It's another chunky. It's a little bit different than the other one. It has almost diamond-shaped glitter in it versus just the round chunky glitter. So figured to give you two different looks for glitter. And I'm doing the same process for Party Gras as I did for Elle Woods. You just tap it down with your finger, kind of tap the sides in till it's flat as possible. And back to Elle Woods, before you do your second coat, take a brush and dust off that extra glitter so it doesn't transfer back into your bottle. And then do another thin coat of base bond, making sure to cover the whole nail. And then I wipe my brush on a paper towel, typically before I put it back into the bottle, so that way dip powder and glitter doesn't transfer back into the base bond. And then I lay my swatch or my nail back into the glitter, lay it flat, tap off your extra powder, and then press it down again and pinch those sides or push it down on the sides to make sure you don't get a really wide nail. So just press it down as flat as you can and you're good to go. And then we're going to either move on to your next nail or onto my next swatch. Okay, so I'm going back in on my Party Gras nail, and what I did is dust off that extra glitter and powder, and then I'm doing one more thin coat of base bond, wiping off the brush before putting it back into the bottle, and I'm going to lay it flat into the jar, and then I'm going to press it down again and on the sides to try to get it as flat as possible, and then I'm going to do this again one more time for both colors, or you would repeat on all 5 of your nails. And you'll see right here how smooth I got the powder down just by pressing on it. And that's a chunky glitter. So that's pretty smooth in my opinion. And then I'm going back in, wiping it off and doing one more coat of glitter on both of these swatches. And if you don't want 3 dips, if you're going to top it with clear, you could stop after 2 and do your 3rd dip of clear to help protect that glitter. But I personally like 3, and since I do thin coats of base, I do 3 dips of glitter and then a top coat of clear. So I have 4 dips in total, but you can completely do 2 or 3. It's all by preference. Personally, for me, I feel like 3 or 4 gives you the strongest, longest lasting nail, but it's total preference, whatever you prefer. And now that my 3rd dip is done, I'm going in with Solidify, and I'm using a lot of Solidify because I want it to soak down to that bottom layer of glitter. And if you keep the Solidify, like do it as soon as you're done with your third layer, it'll completely soak through and also help that glitter lay pretty flat. And so for this swatch, I'm doing the same thing, my last coat of base and my last dip. And then I'm going to add that Solidify on there enough for it to seep through. And then I'm going to let it dry for about a minute or until I tap on it and it gets that hard tapping sound, or you can feel when it's hard. And once my Solidify dries, I'm going to take DP90, which is crystal clear, and I'm going to go in with one dip of clear over my Elle glass slippers. And what this clear is going to do is protect that glitter when I'm buffing. It's going to give you a smooth finish. And if you've noticed when you buff, sometimes the glitter might turn silver because you're buffing off the color of the glitter. So this will ensure that your glitter stays the color it's supposed to without turning silver. Now I'm going to dust off the extra clear and do one more coat of Solidify. So I solidify before I do my clear, because if you solidify over 4 steps of dip, it might not seep to the bottom layer and you want it to seep through all of them. So I do my Solidify after 3 and then do my 4th dip and go back in with one more coat of Solidify. And I'm going to do the same thing for my Party Gras swatch as well. Now that my Solidify is dry, I'm going to go in with a buffer block and I'm going to buff the surface until I can get it as smooth as possible. And sometimes you might feel a few little bumps or ridges and your buffer block isn't doing the trick. You can go ahead and go in with a 180 grit or a 240 grit nail file. I kind of switch back and forth between that and a buffer block just to give me as smooth a finish as I can. And then I take that same hand file and I go over the tip and I go over the surface and then on the sides just to ensure that I keep my nail shape that I'm looking for, as well as making sure that there's no little pieces of chunky glitter on the side of the nail or anything like that, just to keep my whole nail as smooth and even as possible. And then feeling the swatch, if it doesn't feel smooth, just go back in with your file and your buffer block as many times as you need to get the smooth finish that you're looking for. And don't be afraid to buff the surface too much because you have that clear coat on, which is going to protect your glitter. So you're not really going to lose any glitter doing this. And after you buff, go ahead and go in with another coat of Solidify. And this is the final coat of Solidify, so you don't have to completely drench the nail. You just kind of want to make sure that you coat the whole nail with it. And then I'm going to go back in with my next swatch and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to file the sides to kind of keep my shape, make sure it stays true to the shape that I'm going for. And then you're going to just file to get it as smooth as possible and use that buffer block as well, whatever works easier for you. Some people prefer to do this with an e-file, which you can definitely do, and I'll talk about e-files in another video. Personally, while I'm doing my manicure, I would rather use a hand file. I feel like I have more control over it. And yeah, that's just personal preference, whatever's easier for you. And once you reach your desired smoothness, just go ahead and go back in with your Solidify, enough to coat the nail, and you don't have to completely drench it. Just enough to coat it and let it dry for 1 to 2 minutes. And after I let it dry for 1 or 2 minutes, I'm going to take a clean paper towel and wipe off the surface just to remove any extra Solidify that might be hanging around so I don't contaminate my top coat. And then you're going to go in with your Glossy, and you want to try to keep it between like 2 to 3 small strokes, and you want to keep it really thin. And after you do that, I always wipe my brush off on a paper towel so I don't transfer any Solidify back into my Glossy bottle, because that will cause your liquids to get stringy, and you do not want that, or a hardened brush. And then I wait a few seconds until it looks like it's starting to dry, and then I go back in with my second coat. And you can take your time on this one and make it a little bit thicker than the first, because this is your final shiny coat of Glossy. Then wipe your brush off again before putting it back into the bottle. And here is my completed Elle Woods swatch, or obviously you could do it on your fingernails too. But I got it as smooth as I could and as smooth as I wanted it to be. And I think that clear coat is definitely the trick to a smooth, chunky glitter finish. And I'm going to go to my Party Gras swatch and I'm going to wipe it off, and I'm going to do the same thing with my Glossy. I'm going to go in with a thin coat of base bond, and you want to try to keep it to a few small strokes, not overdo it. And then wipe your brush off before putting it back into your bottle so you don't contaminate your liquids, causing your brush to harden or for it to get stringy. And I'm going to let it sit for a second, and you can kind of see it shrink to the nail or dry a little bit. And then you want to immediately go back in with your second coat of Glossy coat. And this is your final coat, so take your time on it to make sure it looks nice. And also I noticed that if you try to do all 10 nails at once, the timing for the liquids is off. So I would recommend starting like on your thumb and go to your pinky and then go immediately back in to your second coat, starting with your thumb again. And then this is my finished Party Gras swatch, all nice and smooth and perfect. No bumps or anything like that. Nice and perfect, and doesn't even look like a chunky glitter. And here you have these beautiful finished chunky glitter dip swatches, and I hope you enjoy. If you like this video, please hit the like button, subscribe to my channel, and leave a comment with some videos you'd like to see. Deuces and smooches.